Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about, is buy-to-let dead in 2025? I'm going to give you a real frank answer on that. And also, I'm going to give you some potential other strategies that you could look at if you don't think that buy-to-let will work for you in 2025. It's been a tough few years in the buy-to-let sector. You've got so much legislation either happening or going to happen very, very soon. And that is spooking buy-to-let investors. So if you're new around here and you haven't done already, before we jump into this, make sure you subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're on the way to 43,000 subscribers. And let's get some more views on this video by smashing like, tickling like, doing something to that like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm and really helps the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So, buy-to-let, is it dying? Well, less people are doing it. Even though you see all these property courses and trainings all over your social media, less people are actually joining the buy-to-let market at the moment. And a lot of them are put off for various different reasons. And the first one is the tax that you now have. So with a buy-to-let property, you pay something called Section 24 tax if the property is in your personal name. Now that means that you get to pay tax on the gross rent, and if you're a higher rate taxpayer, it can be really, really difficult to make profit then. Now you can take off some costs, as someone will jump in the comments and say you can, but it's not as much as you could, and it does mean that it's more tax that you would have paid that you didn't have to pay previously. So that worries a lot of people. You've also got the fear of potential taxes coming up, and they include potentially national insurance hikes. We're talking about VAT on rent. We're talking about a surcharge on profits of 6%. These aren't things that are happening today. They're rumours. Labour's talking about them. Labour is getting this out to the media, and so they can test what the reaction is on that. So tax is something that concerns people. How you can get around that, and the best way to run a buy-to-let property is in a limited company. That's how you can do that. What else are people worried about? Well, EPCs. The EPC regulation isn't law. It's being talked about. Again, they're saying that potentially you will have to get your property to a level C by 2030 on a new let by 2028. What's my opinion on that? Labour may introduce that. The Conservatives, though, said the same, and at the last minute, they removed it. I don't think the deadline of 2030 is going to happen. I think it will get pushed back, and potentially Labour won't even be in power by then. So do you need to worry? Maybe. You should look to improve your property as you can. I don't think it's a deal breaker, and I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. It's not realistic that all landlords are going to get this sorted, and this will get some sort of delay. I'm certain of that. So that's something that you've got to consider. The next one is the Renters' Rights Bill. And so the Renters' Rights Bill worries a lot of landlords. The big part that they're worried about is something called Section 21, no-fault evictions. And people are worried that they won't be able to get their property back easily. So instead of a Section 21, they would have to use something called a Section 8. That's slower. That goes through the courts. My opinion on this is that a lot of this is going to be the same for everyone. So every landlord is going to have this same problem. But also, I think that when you look at the bill, which I have done more than most, I've got ebooks on it and guides on it and all that kind of stuff. I think that they're going to introduce into the bill other reasons to evict someone if they're not paying rent, if they're disturbing people, if they're trashing your property, that you could get your property back. It's just the no fault part that they'll get rid of, and that gets Labour the headline. I think it will be replace the Section 21 by something similar. You just won't be able to use the word no fault. So if someone's not paying your rent on all these issues, I think you will be able to get your property back. So buy-to-let, is it something you would still consider? Yes. I invest in buy-to-let properties still. I did a really good deal last year, bought for £120,000, spent 5-6 grand doing it up, got it revalued weeks later for £180,000. That's documented on this channel. You can see all of that. But what would I do instead? And these are things that I think you should look at as alternatives to buy to let, because you'll make more money. First one is social housing. Now, social housing, there are lots of providers all around the UK offering different terms. I'm not talking necessarily about renting to immigrants, because I know that's a touchy subject. You can rent to people that are British, that the local housing providers need and want to home. Now, with some of these providers, and you can negotiate different kinds of deals, you can get guaranteed rent, you can get it so they do the maintenance, and that takes a lot of the stress away from a lot of people. So social housing providers are someone that you should look at and consider as an alternative just to normal buy-to-let. Next is serviced accommodation. So, serviced accommodation. Now, serviced accommodation is where you rent a property and you rent it out on Airbnb or something similar to that. And lots of people do that. Millions of people probably do that, or at least hundreds of thousands. It's competitive. Now, there's more rules and more legislation coming in on serviced accommodation, and that's good, because that means some people will quit and the barrier to entry is higher. And when there's a bit more of a barrier to entry, if you're doing that, it means that you're going to get less new people join and less competition. By renting your property out on a nightly basis, you can get a really, really good return that you couldn't get as a buy-to-let investor. Now, I've got two girls. I've got one daughter that's 24, and if we stay somewhere, we'll stay in a hotel. But my youngest daughter is 4. And so we, for example, we went to West Midlands Safari Park, I think last year, and we stayed in a hotel, me, my partner Katie, and Amelie. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare, because Amelie goes to bed at 7 o'clock, and that meant we had to go to bed at 7 o'clock. And she thought it was hilarious that we were in the same room and just wouldn't go to sleep. We had to hide under the duvet watching rubbish on Netflix. It wasn't for me. So now when we go away, and prior to that, most of our holidays are in Airbnb or something similar. We often go to the south of France. Last year we went to the south of France as well, and that was an Airbnb. So that means that Amelie can go to bed in her own bedroom away from us, and we can go downstairs and have a barbecue, have some beers, go for a swim, do whatever we want and have that freedom. So we will always be looking ourselves for something like a serviced accommodation, and lots of parents and builders and people that want to reduce the costs, they're looking for something similar. So that's a good option, and you can make more money. Be aware there are new rules and regulations coming out all the time, and so you've got to keep an eye on that. But that's an advantage, because that will get some people out of the market. Next is HMOs, house of multiple occupation. The population's growing in the UK. More people are getting divorced. More people just want short-term accommodation, and a serviced accommodation, an HMO gives them that. It gives them a fixed bill. Often, if they can't afford it, the council will pay that for them. In Dorking, they pay £9.50 per calendar month. In Leatherhead, which is only about 5 miles away, they pay £1,050. So you've got to pick the right area, you've got to pick the right council, and you've got to make it decent quality so you attract decent quality tenants. You don't want loads of scumbags living in your property. But HMOs are high cash flow. That's where you're renting it out on a room by room basis. You're paying the electric bill, you're paying the gas bill, you're paying the council tax, but you get 5, 6, 7, 8, as many as 20. Depends on how many rooms you've got, but you can get 20 lots of rent rather than just one. The cash flow is significantly more, and that's why that works really well. But my favourite strategy, instead of buy-to-let, is the BRRR strategy. I've done that multiple times. I've documented all of those on the channel. There's like probably 50, 60, 70 videos on the channel where we're doing these kind of deals. We've got how the channel started was when I bought a property for Georgia, my oldest daughter, in Doncaster. We paid 60 grand on that. Maybe you've watched the auction video of that. We were about 75 grand all in with the building costs. It isn't as much money as you think. I'm talking replaster, kitchen, bathroom, Decorating, it wasn't as much as people think, and we got it revalued at 100 grand only 2 months later, and that meant we got all the money back out of that property. And then we went and bought another one in Dorking in Surrey. And that is similar to the deal that I did last year. £120,000 purchase price on a studio, a few grand on upgrades. And I then got it revalued weeks later at £180,000. So we can teach you how to do all of this stuff. We've got a course that's less than 30 quid, where we'll teach you how to find below market value, how to do the BRRR, how to then cash flow the property properly. It's called The Fundamentals of Property Investing. I'm going to link to it below, and you can grab a copy of that for less than 30 quid, one-time price, when everyone else is charging thousands and thousands of pounds for training. So do click on that, check it out. Do smash the like button. Any questions you've got, do put them below. Do check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.